So let me just do a tally up here because I think most of the people here now have joined, and thank you for joining. We do have a bunch of others who haven't yet, but we have said it's an hour, so to respect everybody's time, I'm just gonna go ahead and kick off now. And I'll just double check with Julie and Chris. You guys can see the screen that I'm sharing right now?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, great. Well, welcome to our Microsoft Teams talk. Really grateful that you took time out of your day to make it. For those of you who don't know, my name is Christian Espinoza, and I'm the product practice lead at Voyager. In an article by lifesize.com released in January of last year, they predicted that the future of the workplace would become far more remote and that video would spread farther than just work conferencing and into fields such as health, government, and education. Well, they had no idea how right they were. 2 months after that article was released, we plunged into our first nationwide lockdown, and the world as we knew it changed forever. So if you have kids or you know anyone who does, it's likely they've become experts in video calling this past year and a half. Our lives, our work, our needs, they've changed dramatically. And so for a lot of us, we're still trying to make sense of it. We at Voyager, we recently launched Teams Trunk product to the wholesale market because we strongly believe that chat, collaboration, calling, video conferencing should be done simply, intuitively, and under one system. So with our channel-based billing and the power to let you customize and create hybrid solutions by connecting your Teams users and your non-Teams users and your SIP trunks, Cloud PBX under the same VVP account, we're confident that we can deliver a unique and valuable product experience for you and your customers. We're always asking ourselves, where can we take the customer next? And what experience can we give them that will make a positive change in their life? So with that in mind, I'm excited to tell you that we have some great guests here today to talk to you about all of that. Now, bear with while I go back to my slide and throw some confetti on them. Here we go. So now I will let these folks introduce themselves, but so you know, we have Paul Bloom. So Paul Bloom, productivity architect, collaboration evangelist, public speaker, and MVP. He's from Generation E, and Paul is making a positive difference to the way people communicate, connect, and collaborate. Lyndon Gervers, please, I hope I've pronounced your last name correctly. He's a UC solutions architect at Ingram Micro, working with Poly, Logitech, Yealink, Jabra, audio codes, you name it. He specializes in unified communications and, of course, delighting customers as all the rest of us are too. And lastly, we have Chris Clark, National Partner Manager at Jabra with 15 years experience in unified communications. Also very passionate and focused on providing amazing collaboration experiences through the power of audio. So I think we have a fantastic lineup today. But before we kick into the actual talk, just a little bit of housekeeping here. So I know that most of you have probably used Teams or something similar, but this is a Teams meet. It isn't a webinar or a live event, so you do have the ability to ask questions. And we've done this. On purpose because we want it to be a discussion, a collaboration. This is what Teams is about anyway. So we know that you have some questions. I'm sure if you have one, best thing to do is just go ahead and raise your hand using the raise hand icon. And you could probably see here to the left the icon. You've also got other emojis. So yeah, feel free to express yourself. If you like what people are talking about, go ahead and put the heart emoji or the clap hands emoji, or if you think someone's being absolutely hilarious, which won't be me, put the laughing emoji too. And that way we can, if you have a question, legitimate question, you raise your hand, we can see you. If you want to write a question, you can actually select the comment icon, as you can see there, to show the conversation panel, and then you'll be able to write your question there. And that way we can, when you finish writing your question, hit this arrow to send the question through to the team. And as Chris kindly showed us at the top of the hour, if you're on mute, go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to speak. We'll see if we can catch any offenders, but yeah, that's a pretty common one, so I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about it. And with that, I would like to, first of all, if you see yourself in any of these icons, you know, I'm hoping you can relate. I would probably I'd be the top left if it was me. But I hope you find this somewhat engaging. And I will now stop sharing my screen and kick it off to Lyndon to go ahead and introduce himself.
Okay, thanks, Christian. I just got a couple of slides. The idea is not to PowerPoint you to death today, so we'll just get my slide deck up. I need some grounding. So yes, thanks, Christian. My name is Lyndon Jervis. I'm from Ingram Micro. I'm a solutions architect. And with me today, I've got Julia Holden, who's our business development manager for Yealink. And on the call today also, we've got Ben Butler, who specializes in the dark art of Microsoft licensing, and he's specialized in that. So at Ingram, we've got a team of UC specialists, around us, 13 of us, and we solely focus on UC. In actual fact, I tried to figure out how many years experience we'd have in the team, and when I just looked at Julie and I was, oh, we've been in this business for over 50 years. So we've seen a lot of change. And
brutal, Lyndon, brutal.
Yeah, it's the truth hurts sometimes, but what we don't know hasn't been invented yet. And but I think, Julia, we've seen more change in the last 3 years than we've probably seen in our entire lives. I think the biggest change I saw when I was younger was a change from the dial phone to the keypad phone. But anyway, moving on. So within that team, we look after a large range of products. But if one key thing with all our products up here, you'll see the Microsoft team certified. So this is a key thing for us. It's one of our main pillars within Ingram Micro. And you'll see here we've got the Yealink range. We've got, in the middle there, of course, we've got Teams. We've got Logitech, Poly, audio codes is what the Voyager platform, calling platform, is built on. And of course, we've got, Chris, not to be forgotten there, Jabra. And in this time, particularly in the last probably 5 years, we've seen a huge change moving from, I suppose, the on-prem PBX to the cloud. In fact, it's been so extreme, we've seen hardware vendors who have actually exited the market. So all your customers out there who are running either Panasonic or Samsung, those two manufacturers have exited the market. And they're not the only ones. There's a couple others that have exited the market altogether, and just have left it to the cloud vendors to fight it out. And there are a lot of cloud vendors out there, but I think, like there's the likes of 8x8 and Access4. We've got also anyway, moving on. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but what we're talking about today is Microsoft. And when Microsoft starts to do something, they do it well, and they are very strong. And so what we're seeing is Microsoft launched Teams about 4 years ago now, to replace the aging Skype. And as we said earlier in our rambles, it was really the right time to do it. And now they're adding voice, and Voyager voice is what we're here to talk about today. So historically, Microsoft has done things very well, and I think you'll see the same thing happening with Teams, and we've definitely seen in the last 2 years. Launching a cloud platform is not an easy thing to do. But one thing that you've got to remember is all these vendors I'm showing on the screen here are hardware vendors, and they deliver the last mile of the solution. So when you're in there talking to your customers about Teams calling and how it can enable their business, you also have to look at the end user, what is going to sit on their desk, what's going to plug into their laptop, what's going to plug into their iPhone, the hardware. So don't be afraid to ask, would you like fries with that? So when you're in the customer's premises talking to them about Teams calling, headsets. Again, Teams compatible headsets. We're talking about Jabra and Yealink, for example, and Poly. What is the customer's, what are they doing? Is the IT department across that? Do they want a reliable solution that they know works and it works well with Microsoft Teams? Needs to be talked about. The telephone, it's not something that's dying. We are still literally selling thousands of telephones, and I think Julie and I wouldn't actually be here if it wasn't for the number of telephones we're selling. And it's because that people still have shared spaces. They still have environments like banks where people are sharing the phone, retail, those sorts of environments. So the humble telephone is still out there, and of course there are Teams phones, and a lot of people's infrastructure is due for a refresh. A lot of people coming back to their businesses now noticing, oh yes, this does need to be upgraded. Video conferencing. So video conferencing is, here we are now, it's changed so much in the last 3 years. And if you are talking about Teams calling, and you can see the customer maybe not ready for, is not interested, or yet, video can be an easy win to get you in the door. What we're seeing is companies, their boardrooms, their meeting rooms are not yet video enabled, and they need to get them up to speed because they're building a hybrid workplace, if you've heard that term. So definitely don't be afraid to talk about video, and it can be an easy win to get you in the door and get you talking to the customer, have a easy win solution. In a few months, a year's time, come back, and hopefully not a year's time, but come back and talk to them about Teams calling later. And don't forget, at Ingram, we also sell displays and screens. It's not, most people are always looking for a new TV or a bigger TV. Don't be afraid to ask, did you want some new screens in those rooms? Come and talk to us. We can definitely put together business grade screens for the conference room as well. So, as you can see here by this slide, there is a huge market out there for, for video, for example, but the same goes for moving from on-prem PBX to cloud. It's probably the same sort of numbers as I've got up there. And I think Ingram resellers out there are deploying Teams. They've got their customers asking for Teams, and they really need to secure those customers by having a Teams offering. I think working with Ingram and working with Voyager, we can provide a end-to-end solution to delight those customers and make their Teams work really well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to the lovely Julie, and she's going to give you the latest on Yailing. Take it away, Jules.
Thanks, Lyndon. Right. I get, I think, 3 minutes, so I'm going to whisk through this, and Lyndon's going to move my slides through. Look, just to let you know, a lot of you, I would imagine, know Yailing because you might be using it on your existing Voyager platform. You may not have sort of delved into the Teams side of things, but Yailing would have the most substantial range of Teams certified products of any vendor in the market. Phones, headsets, video conferencing. We've got these very cool new room panels, so they'll work with any existing video solution someone might have. So yeah, I'm just going to show you a couple of slides on the range anyway. Next slide, please, assistant. Headsets. So obviously, Chris and I have fun on some of these conversations, but Yailing's got a range of DECT wireless headsets. They're all Teams certified. They also work on some of your other platforms, SIP platforms you might be running on. And we've got a workstation which has the touch screen and the mobile charger as well. Next slide, Lyndon. Handsets, as Lyndon said, you will sell some handsets in a Teams environment, mostly in common areas and mostly the other one is to executives. So there's a range of handsets there available to you as well. The common area phone, that MP52, that's pretty much the same price as the T41, T42. So that's really bringing down the Teams certified handsets into that sort of reasonable price for your SME market or anyone that just wants common area phones. Next slide, please. Hopefully you're all across this as well. Yailing now have a range of USB devices, cameras, all-in-one video bars, speakers, etc. And the other thing, I'm not sure if some of you are aware, but Yailing has a device management platform for managing all of these devices, which will work across your SIP devices as well as Teams devices. That's free software available to you. So if you're not already using it, give us a call. We work with Voyager on how we can help you get the most out of how you're going to pre-provision and things like that. And my last slide, I think, is it's the group chat's doing my head in. Not this group chat, it's another one. Just Teams devices. So for video, Yealink split them out into room size and makes it easy. And also there's components available for all of these if you've got a customer that wants ceiling mics or, you know, to change the build slightly. So now I'm going to pass you on to Chris. Obviously, Jabra is the dominant headset provider in the New Zealand market, and very lucky to have Chris on the call. So up to you, Chris.
Thanks, Julie. I don't have any slides. That was a nice pitch, but hi everyone. Thanks, Julie, for that, and thanks Voyager for setting this up. For anyone who doesn't know who I am, my name is Chris Clark. I'm the National Partner Manager for Jabra here in New Zealand. Now, Jabra is one of the world's leading UC headset manufacturers, and the UC is kind of the key word there. Now, the past 14 months has obviously been unprecedented for all of us. You know, it's not only in our personal lives, but how we work. And that shift to flexible and hybrid working has never been more prevalent. In fact, we get a lot of statistics out of Copenhagen, and you know, we're looking at figures like 73% of global organizations now are reconfiguring their offices spaces as a result. And this actually includes a 27% reduction in real estate. And now we have an indication that 49% of organizations are now considering making working from home permanent. Now, we've had some years in the industry spat out today, and I joined that crew with my 15 years working in unified communications. I think we'll all agree, and Lyndon touched on it, nothing could have prepared us for what has just taken place. You can really only describe it as a revolution to our industry, I think. And that with that dramatic and rapid change brought about by COVID, over the past 18 months, the world has experienced a mass adoption of UC platforms. And clearly, no other platform has impacted transformation faster than Microsoft Teams. In fact, early estimates indicate that Microsoft Teams is now the preferred platform for over 80% of global organizations, with 250 million active monthly users. I'm sure Paul will be able to maybe touch on that. Sorry to throw you under the bus there, Paul. Now, with this wave of UC adoption came an incredible requirement for hardware to support it, and overnight, I'm sure we all saw it, organizations scrambled to ensure that their workforce was equipped to work remotely, and the sheer demand for laptops and workstations was so immense, and headsets, that some manufacturers actually had to charter their own aircraft for freight to meet the demand. However, as we all know, and we still see the repercussions today, that influx became so much that globally the world experienced an unprecedented hardware shortage. So if we were to fast forward now to today, 10 months, let's say, last 10 months, we start to see some very interesting trends and figures coming through. Now, in my field, one statistic in particular kind of really stands out from the rest, and this comes from our strategic alliances team out of Copenhagen. And that is actually potentially upwards of 65% of users are not even using a headset, let alone a UC certified device when communicating over Teams. So that means actually most virtual conversations taking place are using the generic microphone and speaker on their laptop and mobile devices. So this is actually really troubling because essentially it's a statistic that means the majority of organizations using Teams must be experiencing an element of bad audio quality when collaborating virtually. So please don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing the top manufacturers here. In fact, some of them are our partners and make incredibly beautiful products. But that delivery of clear and undisturbed audio has never been more critical. Because if you think about it, how you're heard is actually how you're perceived. So a barking dog, a loud office, cafe, transportation, or in my instance, a couple of kids during lockdown, can actually determine or have a vast impact on the value that you bring to a virtual meeting. Now, my managing director, David Pickett, he always tells me that Jabra employs me for my knowledge and how I transfer that knowledge. That's my role. I don't build houses, I don't measure window frames or fly airplanes or manage risk. It's my transfer of knowledge that makes me valuable to Jabra. So how I communicate means everything. Now, how many times have we all been on a Teams call and at least one person is asked to mute, has been asked to mute their mic as it's interfering with the conversation? Now, if you think about it, this has devastating consequences to anyone who's contributing to the knowledge sharing process. If you're asked to mute your mic, you become embarrassed, you're perceived to be ruining the meeting, and subsequently you're no longer adding any value. I'm sure you're all familiar with this experience, it happens all the time. Now, in my industry, or in our industry, we're traditionally focused on user experience. So if we specifically talk about headsets, we're talking about, is it comfortable? Does it feel nice? Does it sound good? What's the music like? But I think what's really important to note, in recent years, we have to become far more focused on customer experience. In fact, most organizations, it's become essential. So if we talk specifically about headsets, Jabra headsets and other brands, we have a standard that we have to meet when it comes to certification. We have the UC certified Microsoft Open Office standard headset. It's a microphone, it's not a certification, but it's more of like a special usage designation on premium microphones for Open Office. So Microsoft tests all of our headsets for audio quality. And as I've been discussing, Open Office or other noisy environments pose a much greater challenge. Now, headsets like our Evolve 2 series and some of our Evolve and our Engage, which I'm on at the moment, are designed to pick up the voice of the headset user, but not transmit the sound around us. That's done by the technology used with microphones. So we've got, for example, my headset. I'm not going to show you a live demo because I could just see it going horribly wrong. But I have a microphone on the outside here and two microphones in. Now the two microphones inside the headset are listening to me, and the microphone on the outside is listening to what's going on around me, suppressing that sound using a chipset in the headset and pushing it out to give you a nice, focused, streamlined audio. So Microsoft has acknowledged this in their testing and have awarded Jabra the Open Office standard, as well as recognizing us as a world leader in UC audio. Now, we have videos and slides and whatnot, and I'd be really keen if you are interested after the series to talk more about headsets specifically and how that can assist with Voyager Voice. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. So often do we see large deployments with audio through Teams or platforms, and that last 3 feet, as we say in our industry, we're not considered to be part of the solution, as opposed to something that's additional like a peripheral and a consumable. Now, just on Lyndon's point, do you want fries or that? I'd even go a next step further. I'd say we're the actual bun of the burger. You know, we're the part of the solution that sits right at the end, but is so critical to the goodness that's in the middle of it. You know, it's just a little side comment, but it's actually a now critical, a critical, important, crucial part to any deployment now, and it needs to be considered in any deployment that you're taking forward. Now, I'm sure Julie will agree with me that we are here to work with you to make sure that we support you as a resource in those solutions that you're deploying and pushing out. So please, via Voyager, and contact myself and Julie and Lyndon and anyone else on the call that's available to help you with any type of solution when it comes to seed stock, testing, proof of concepts and deployments. We also have software as well, like Julie touched on, for mass deployment, mass configuration. These are all things that need to be considered now when you look at any type of Microsoft Teams deployment with headsets being involved. With that, I'll stop ranting on and rabbiting and pass you back to whoever's taking on from here, but I hope you found that informative, and please feel free to ask me any questions and I'll make my details available also if you need to get hold of me. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to stop spotlighting on you now, and I'm going to move over to the person of the hour, Paul. Paul's Microsoft MVP. I think I already mentioned this. I'm not going to repeat myself, but I would rather leave it to Paul to explain, I think, some of the benefits that Microsoft Teams can bring, and specifically around how Voyager's product offering can be of benefit to you and your customers. So please, Paul, kick it off.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah, let's get stuck into it. So firstly, I want you to appreciate that this is an opportunity for you to ask questions. If there's something you're unclear about, please just raise your hand, ask a question. The opportunity will only be here for the next sort of 10-15 minutes. So make use of it. If it's anything to do with that's the way you raise your hand, Christian. Thank you. No questions though, right? So I've been in this industry for a long time, and I come from a background where I worked for a telco for about 10 years. I worked for Siemens Communications for about 10 years, and I've been working on Microsoft technologies for the last Wow, nearly 15 years. That means I'm about 23 and a half years old. Just putting it out there. But it's been around. I've been around for a while. And I've seen all sorts of angles. And I was the first person when I saw Microsoft getting into the voice space going, no, what are they doing? Those are servers. You need to reboot them every 6 months. It's never going to work. Well, 10, 12, 15 years on, and it's a new world. People have changed the way they work. Look at us now. We're working from home. We're doing things differently. And that fundamentally, it's that flexibility, that ability to adapt that makes Teams such a powerful tool. As Chris mentioned, 250 million active users. Active users, 250 million. It's now bigger than Zoom. So in the past, in the last year, it's been catch up for Microsoft for the Zoom space. And I need to make sure you understand that. Zoom does video conferencing. That's their core product. They've just recently turned on a bit of calling. It's first version 1.0. Lots of work to be done there still. But Teams didn't start out as a calling product. It started out as a collaboration product, a product that allows you to share and interact and collaborate with other folks. And it's been around a long time now. If you go back in history, it's glued together the bits in SharePoint and file sharing and all these different pieces. And the benefit of having it all under one software umbrella, it's huge. It makes it so much easier. You just have one sign-in, you access everything. Just like that. That's great. It makes it very, very powerful. But what I want to do today, because it's not about it, yes, Teams is very powerful, and there's, even if you may not entirely agree with the way the market's moving, you know how it is. Nobody ever got poor by sticking close to Microsoft. And when everybody's asking for Teams, that's where the money is, right? So hence why we're here. But what I'd like to do is just take you through the calling aspects. Now, I always say the calling aspects is maybe an eighth of the power that's rolled into Teams. So it's a very, very small piece, the same as the meetings and this very meeting experience we're in now. Again, it's a pretty small piece of the entire product suite, but a very powerful piece. So I'm just going to share my screen over here, and bear with me, a little whiteboard session, one of my little party tricks. We'll just wait for it to connect, and there we go. And I'll just pull up my note. There we go. Right, and you should be seeing my whiteboard there. Okay.
Very nice.
Perfect. From a good old party trick, from a calling perspective, traditionally we've always had sort of an on-premise PABX phone system, right? And traditionally that's always been connected to a telco of sorts, right? So whoever that is, telco. And that's kind of been our traditional PABX model. Now, what's happened from a cloud perspective is we've left the phones on-prem, but we can also put the phones anywhere else, whether that be at home or wherever that be. And then we've taken the PABX piece, which is this bit over here, and let's grab the whole word, and we've just moved that into the cloud, right? And there we go, cloud PABX, easy peasy, right? And then this connectivity that we have over here is now really just our internet, right? Okay, so how does Teams fit into this? Well, let's move that on a bit, and I just think my pencil's a little bit thick over there, so we'll just change the size a little bit. Let's just scroll past that for the moment. We're working at home, having access to the physical office. Aren't you glad you don't have a physical PABX anymore? I'll bet you anyone who has a physical PABX today is going, this is really messing with our ability to work remotely. So, of course, Voyager has a cloud-based PABX, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. How does Teams fit into it? Let's go there. So today, for us to work from home, right, or from the office, right, let's call this headquarters over here, what we fundamentally need is this cloud over here. And in this case, this is internet, right? Okay, so we just have a connection to the internet, and off we go. And what we see is we have telcos over here, so Voyager in this case, and Voyager's over there. And in this little space over here, they may have a virtual PABX that does all your PABX calling and so on. Where is Teams? Let's go a little bit further. It just happens to be that Teams is based in this little space called M365, Microsoft's 365. And that's a horrible 5A. There we go. That's marginally better. Right. And that also is internet connected, fundamentally like that. So what we see is we see the Teams backend lives in here. Now, you can see that if we can get the telco and Teams to talk to each other, our users with their internet access should be pretty sweet to connect to the services. And that's exactly what's happened. And this is called, this ability for the telco and Teams to connect to each other, that over there is called direct routing. That's fundamentally what it is. It basically means that the calling capabilities that you usually have to worry about in the telco space are taken care of by the telco. And all you have to configure, and I say that tongue in cheek, all you really have to worry about is how do you connect this connector on your end, because this is your Teams tenant. And you have to connect that little connector so that it connects to the telco. Any call dial plans, call routing, numbers, all that kind of stuff is managed inside the telco, and they take care of that for you. So it's really a much simpler view. But so far, and you'll notice I've purposely written telco in there, this is what everyone offers. You know, all the telcos, anyone who's anyone in the New Zealand market, in the global market, this is what they offer. What makes Voyager different? Let me show you. What makes Voyager different is this. Traditionally, we've got a PABX, right? Traditionally. And on this PABX, maybe we've got some, you know, some phones over there. For those of you who don't know, that's my little diagram of a phone. I know none of those are Yealings, just saying, you know, the Yealings look a bit flashier than that. But what we traditionally find is maybe there's like a decked phone sitting over here, right? Maybe that's a decked phone. Or maybe there's a device sitting over here. Maybe it's an intercom, or it's an intercom, or it's something like that, analog, or, you know, an elevator, a lobby phone, those sorts of things. So we've got those in there. And although they're traditionally connected to your PABX, with that, when you move to direct routing, you can't take it with you, right? Traditionally. So if I wanted this, if I wanted to take, there you go, let's just create my telco. If I wanted to take the PABX bit of, oh, no, that's not it. If I wanted to take my PABX here, and yeah, it doesn't want to do that. I'll just delete it. There we go. And we'll just rewrite it over here. Let's say I wanted to move my PABX functionality into the cloud. So in other words, now it's hosted like what Voyager offer. Traditionally, what happens is this service that you get over here is vanilla SIP. Vanilla SIP. When I say vanilla SIP, I mean you can just register SIP endpoints usually, and it's even more so. You can start hanging stuff off that depending on what this is. But when Teams is involved, that actually means that the telco has a session border controller sitting over there, a voice router, and that voice router has a connection back to Teams, right? So we'll draw the Teams cloud over here. That's your Teams cloud. And there's this connectivity between these two over here. Now, in this case, there is usually no way to add this sorts of stuff. No way. All you can add to a Teams backend with direct routing, so this specifically is direct routing, right? Routing. All you can add to that is any Teams certified devices. So Teams phones, the ones Julie showed us earlier, some of the other vendors have some devices and so on. If you want to add an intercom, a PA system, a decked phone, anything like that, you're out of, well, you used to be out of luck. But then along came Voyager. And what do Voyager do? They allow you to connect these devices. So now I can drop another, I could even go, hey, you know what? I'm going to drop another SBC over here, a session border controller, and maybe that's connected to my Cisco call manager. And now I've got some Cisco call manager phones sitting over here, and I can call from my Cisco call managers to my Teams users. Wow, look at that. So what they've done is they've made it truly hybrid. You have the ability to bring together, because of this very clever way that they've glued that in there. I always say that that's the magic. Now, if you had come to me before I met the guys at Voyager and started talking to them about this new product, if you'd come to me before and said to me, hey, I want to start going to Teams, but I want to do it in a phased way. I want to move first my sales team and then maybe my marketing team. You know what I would have said? I would have said, sure, no problem. What we need to do is we need to deploy on-site over here a session border controller, fundamentally taking this function and doing it over here. Now, that's the way it's traditionally done. And that's not a problem, right? You can totally do that. Let me tell you why you may not want to do it. How many of you know how to configure and program SBCs? They're a different beast, right? They're pretty hectic. There's a lot of knowledge required in the voice world. And so what happens when something requires specific knowledge? Well, the dollar signs go up, right? So this, whatever that device is, it can be virtualized or physical, which will have a cost. It'll have a maintenance cost to it as well, software maintenance and support cost to it. Somebody's going to have to look after it. That's going to cost you some dollars. And then somebody's got to build and configure it. Now, traditionally, that'll cost you between 2 to 5 days to have somebody on it. So the hours for 2 to 5 days to configure, right? And I'm being very generous on the 5. I've had SBCs that we've spent 25, 30 days configuring because of the complexity. And that's just because of how much stuff is in there. The more call managers and Avaya PABXs and whatever you put into there, you can glue them all together, by the way. You can glue all sorts of things together with an SBC. It's that magic. But do you really need to when over here you have a hosted one that'll do the trick for you? Yeah. Now it's just looking like something that Banksy would have done. Yeah. My artwork. And that's
it's a nice work of art there, Paul. Just saying.
I get carried away. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. I wanted you to realize that this is not just another, hey, +1, we also do direct routing. We do direct routing, but if you wanted to bring your own analog connectivity, which we can do through ATAs, if you wanted to bring in your on-prem PABX, we can do that as well. So there's all these different things that most platforms cannot bring together, you can bring together from a Voyager perspective. And that's my 10 minutes gone. So,
well, Paul, thank you so much. That's you see, this has been quite an insightful, and for me, I'm a visual person, as I know probably a lot of you also are. That was extremely helpful to see it and to actually see the possibilities and the solutions. And I'm just wondering, at this point, that's pretty much our talk, but I would love to hear from our wholesalers. And if you guys had any questions, whether you wanted to raise a hand, ask a question verbally, unmute yourself, of course, or if you wanted to type out a question, I'm very happy to open the floor to anybody, whether it's a specific a solution. You obviously don't have to name names, but you can, if you have a customer that you're looking at, or a custom solution that you're kind of umming and ahhing, or anything at all, you feel free to type it right now. Otherwise, we'll have an extremely early finish, and you guys can all have some time back. Oh, we have our first question. How stable is the connection from Voyager to Teams? Okay, now I'll just preface this. I'm not a subject matter expert on anything, and I'm wondering, I would say it's very stable, but I'm biased. So if there's, I don't know, Grant, I'm not sure if you're on the call. Grant, if you are on the call, he's one of our voice engineers, and I think you would probably, be most qualified from a Voyager engineer perspective to answer that question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I am. Basically, we have multiple SBCs across our data centers in different zones. So we do have failovers, and we do have we've got 2 audio codes, and so it's pretty stable. We have good resiliency on it. So don't know what else to say. It's as stable as your internet. So.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
a
hope
good
that,
question, actually. Actually, Paul, one for the more salesy answer, like when you're talking to customers, and one thing they ask about Office 365 is how reliable is it? What's the failover? Do you have a good way of explaining that to a customer who is, normally an accountant or something like that? How do you respond to that sort of question?
Yeah, so my usual response is that when you configure these in the back end, you actually have something called, it's like a keep alive, it's called SIP options. And what it does is it monitors by constantly sending, I'll call it a kind of a ping, right? It's just a keep alive. It keeps sending if it's there, like a heartbeat. And what happens is it measures the time for the response on that heartbeat. And even if one of the connections, so you've got multiple connections, let's say one of the connections is a little bit slower to respond, the team's backend will switch over to another connection. Even if it's still alive, it'll just go, oh, I've got one that's a bit quicker, it's better, I'll just go there. So that's kind of how good it is. It doesn't wait for it to go down. It just goes, this one seems to be a little bit slow today, I'll just switch over to the other. So that's how it works.
that's we've actually got a few more. There is a follow-up from the same participant that asked that question. And will Voyager outage cause the teams not to work as well? And I think that you may have touched on that. Maybe Grant
What's a Voyager outage actually? Do you actually have those?
No comment.
I'll leave that to Grant.
Yeah, well, it depends on the outage. So if we have any outages on our carrier side, it will affect calls via Teams. If our virtual PBX does go down, it will affect Teams as well. Yeah, if Teams has an issue, it also affects Teams. So if, for instance, Teams has an issue and our voice platform is fine, you will still be able to make calls, or we can redirect the calls to another device or put in a redirection or call forward to a cell phone or something, which will then bypass the Teams. So yeah, I mean, an outage, yeah, there's a lot of outages that happen across the board, and not only just Voyager outages that will affect calls.
Right. Okay.
To add to that as well, you must remember the Voyager piece is really the PSTN calling piece. So even if the PSTN calling piece may have an outage, doesn't mean that the Teams experience from a meeting will be down. That lives on the platform, on the Microsoft platform.
Right. That's a good point. And for anyone who isn't familiar, that was Sandra, our product owner, who developed the whole Teams trunks in the first place. So, okay, perfect. We do have another question. There's a bunch more questions. This is great. When it comes to building call flows, would we do it in the Voyager platform or in Teams? And so I'm not sure if Grant, you want to take that one, or Paul?
Sure. So if you're connecting old devices, or you have another PBX that's connecting, you'll build the call flows within Voyager. And basically, if you have any other devices on Teams, you can basically build the dial plans in Teams that interconnect with the Voyager platform. Specifically extension dialing, you'd probably put some specific dial plans in Teams that would then be pushed out to Voyager, which will then check where that number is sitting on which call flow within Voyager and send it through to the relevant party. So yeah, I mean, you can do it in both sides platforms, depending on which direction you want to go. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, no, that's perfect. And please, if we're answering your questions, feel free to respond again if you feel that you want to follow up or clarify it further.
Can I jump in that one?
Go ahead, Rochelle. Hello.
I know I couldn't stay quiet.
Go ahead.
From my understanding, and Grant, I think maybe you could even clarify this. If you want to build an inbound call flow, so you want calls to come into a main number, you want them to go to a menu, you want to be able to press 1 to select sales, it would be easier to configure that in our platform than it would be in the Microsoft
Correct.
platform, and that can be done within your account in VVP, your Teams account.
For an example, you can have a queue or a basically a queue set up in Teams, which will you assign a normal DDI in Teams, and within Voyager's platform you can have option 1. Say for instance, the queue is sales. You can have option 1 as sales, and it will route it to Teams. And you can have your other PBX or whatever other PBX you have. You can have that as option 2 for support. That'll go to your other PBX within Voyager. So you can consider the Teams as just an extra trunk, sub-trunk, or another PBX in that sense.
Right.
So all the functionality you have with a normal sub-trunk offering, you'll have it with Teams. So you can add and you can put extra other Yealink devices that directly connect to Voyager. You can have those interconnect with the Teams as well.
Awesome. No, I think we got that. And where am I? Sorry, I've just lost my place. There's so many questions coming through. This is fantastic. Maybe we'll speed through them. Okay, question from Mark. What is involved with programming the Teams interface? And perhaps that's Paul.
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
It's a bit of PowerShell. So there's a document that tells you exactly what to do. Fundamentally, it's the same for all of the telcos, really, with small little differences. And of course, a lot of people are a little bit cautious when it comes to PowerShell, just because of familiarity, I suppose. And the PowerShell modules, they can be a little bit fiddly, especially if you're from the voice world and you're not familiar with 365 and PowerShell connectivity. But it's not really that hard. I guess is the long and short of it. It's only really, I think, 5 or 6 lines of PowerShell. There's not a lot to it.
Mm-hmm. And we have put together a guide in the Wholesale knowledge base in the wiki with an article on the PowerShell. Now, these are all open to feedback. So if you guys are looking at getting Teams trunks and you're following our step-by-step guides, please, I really encourage you to feedback however to whomever you feel like, whether it's myself, your account manager, the service delivery team, because we these things probably will get updated as Microsoft updates as well, but we might not know about it. And if you're having issues, would like to hear from you. Okay, well, that's great. Our next question from Shane: which ATAs are best quality? Which ATAs are best quality to be used with Voyager if a client does not want to change from analog PBX? I'm not sure who to refer that to. Maybe
I can answer that as well.
Okay.
And probably Lyndon's probably got a bit more exposure to a variety. ATAs in general, if you're not buying something off AliExpress, you'll probably be good. So anything that you can get support from, I would say anything you can get from Ingram will be fine.
right, and I would definitely confirm that. That is okay. Well, we'll move on.
Audio codes ATA, so and the core of that Voyager's running is audio codes as well. So the same manufacturer is what you'd be connecting to. So probably the best way to go would be audio codes, and there's a range from 2 porters up to 128 ports. So if you've got some crazy rest home environment where you need to run out analog ports to a rest home, which is where they use it, we can put in hundreds of ports if you need it, down to 1 port if you only need 1 port.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Oh, is someone? No. Okay. We'll.
Sorry, Christian, I just want to add something on that as well.
Yes, please do. Go ahead.
Basically, ATA is any ATA that's SIP capable. We don't actually connect directly to the audio codes, so you'll be connecting directly to. Sorry, my son.
You're all right. Totally fine.
Yes. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, so your ATA will connect directly to Voyager Voice, to the Voyager platform. So that is basically where our whole solution is working, is that you can use any of your ATAs that you currently have, any old devices, even if you're running your old Yealink legacy telephones or any SIP-capable devices that register to Voyager platform, you can then tie it into the Teams, this Teams product, because the routing will just, we'll set up all the routing that will then be routed directly to Teams if you want to contact a user on Teams or vice versa. So we don't necessarily connect directly, you won't connect directly to the audio codes. So that's where our platform is actually working, because we've dynamically connected the audio codes. It's all dynamic. So we use a term called SIP manipulation for all these calls to actually move between our platform and the audio codes and within Teams.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. No, well, I hope that makes sense for you, Shane. If not, please go ahead and type away. And just conscious, we have another 5 to 10 minutes. So this is great. Let me keep going. Mark asks, do you need enterprise version of Teams for voice? I think he might be referring to licensing here. So Julie, do you know if Liam is on the call, or do you want to?
I can take that.
Okay, thanks, Liam.
Yep. Yeah, all good. So I'm assuming you just mean phone system by that, or business voice, which obviously is phone system and audio conferencing. So a lot of people think that they need an enterprise license, say E5, which comes with business voice, which is phone system and audio conferencing. But what I'd usually recommend for most customers is just to buy the phone system add-on separately, which can be added to everything from the business standard SKUs up to obviously enterprise licenses. But no, the short answer is they don't need an enterprise version. They just need the phone system add-on.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you, Liam. I hope that answers that question for you, Mark. Moving on to Warwick. Paul mentioned leveraging the SBCs to hook in a variety of devices on site. Does a client need to change all their existing VoIP desk phones to Teams-specific models?
So the answer to that is no. That's the very reason why it's unique. If you didn't have the option to add a variety of devices on site, then you would have to have Teams certified phone models.
Right. Actually, I've got one question there. Also, with your legacy devices, one of your voice guys could answer this. Is presence passed from the legacy devices to the Teams client by any chance?
That might be a question for Grant.
At the moment, we could probably do some manual programming, but yeah, I'll have to look into that. We haven't actually gone through the presence at the moment. So yeah, that's something we'll look into.
Yeah, it's just that, so if you put a large environment with lots of legacy devices, and it'd be nice to, on the Teams client, if I could see if somebody was busy on the phone or is they taking a call. But yeah, it's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely nice to have.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the old, the old setup we have with the old, not old, I'm calling them old, but the normal setup, we do have presence, but we still need to check in if Teams can pick up those presence. So that's, so definitely something we'll look into.
Cool, thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, guys. Cool. We're doing really well here on the questions. Another one here from Simon. Hey, Simon. Can we build VVP call flows for ringing groups to function well with Teams users included, where the Teams/MS voice doesn't override our VVP call flows, workarounds, etc.? By voice, I meant voicemail. Not sure who wants to take that one from our panel.
It's Grant. It's a complicated one, Simon.
That's a Grant. Yep. Okay. Please.
That's definitely. I'm just trying to think now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can. So with the setup on VVP, we'll just allocate DDIs to those users. We'll probably just have to make sure the ring time is low, that VVP actually kills the call before Teams generates the voicemail option. But yeah, it is definitely possible.
Okay.
I don't know
and potentially
if that
something
actually,
we could test even if
yeah,
maybe, right?
definitely. I mean, definitely. I mean, like I said, there's going to be a lot of questions that we actually haven't looked at, but the main point of this whole discussion is that you can use the full capabilities of Voyager VVP and tie with Teams. So
yeah. And if Simon, if you feel like you want to do a test with us, please just get in touch and we'll happily set that up for you.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that goes some way to answering that one. Okay. A question from Owen. How clear is the wholesale billing for this? Is it broken down by customer and then calling type? Is it 100% with Voyager, or is there any services we have to buy off Ingram or similar? Okay.
I can answer that,
Thanks,
I guess.
Okay.
So your calling will be in your monthly CDRs. Just with all your other calling, your calling rates are the same. So unless you're asking about the channels, and those will be broken down separately on your account. Actually, Sandra might be able to answer if they will be broken down on the invoice per customer.
Yeah, so it would be very similar to the way the VVP is running at the moment. So all the monthly fees, daily reports, it will have the teams sections on that. And in there you could see which is your accounts or which is the sub accounts on that.
Cool. Okay, thanks guys. I hope that answers that for you, Owen. If not, please feel free to type in. We have 3 minutes, and I do have to make one final little small announcement, and then we're out. But I want to get through the questions. Where will we find? So from Brenda, where will we find the programming instructions Paul referred to? I think that this might be read the PowerShell. If it is the PowerShell, Brenda, that is in the Wholesale wiki, the knowledge base. There's an article there under the Teams trunks. Happy to follow up afterwards and send it through to you or give you the link so that you can find that. I hope that's what you were referring to. If not, please go ahead and let us know. Okay, so here we have a question from Shri. Can we transfer to a ring group or call queue using Microsoft Teams? And is Call Park and BLF supported?
So,
yep.
Well, yes, you can transfer. I mean, this will be also, you'll be setting up the dial plans within Teams. So for instance, if you've got a 4-digit extensions to the queues, you can set up the dial plans to actually translate that 4-digit queue extension to translate to a DDR, which will then be, Teams will then force it out. And VVP will then basically route it to wherever you want it to go. So, and vice versa as well. So if you have a setup in a queue within Microsoft Teams, you will assign a DDI to that queue in Teams, and VVP can route that as well.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of dial plan setup that needs to happen, but it's all doable. Like I said, with the BLF and the Call Park, I'll have to come back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Now we have 2 more questions and maybe 3 more questions we can wrap. Tony asks, can you have DDI go to SIP device and Teams? I guess more information on functionality and limitations. So can we have a DDI go to SIP device? Okay, yeah.
So the DDI, you must consider the DDI as a unique user name. The only way you would be able to do that normally, from a Teams perspective, I'd use SimRing, right? Simultaneous ring, where you ring 2 devices and you just have, so in that event, I could have my standard SIP device on a number and Teams on a number, but then I tell Teams, if you get a call, ring the other device as well. So I guess what I'm saying is, as a workaround, that can be done. Yes, from an SPC perspective, you can spin off 2 calls with a single request, but it's stepping outside of what's normal, which means cost, effort, and room for error, right? So I would usually avoid that. Just give them each a number, and you can just tell them to also ring the other device from the device itself. It's much easier.
Awesome. No, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And I'm not technical in the slightest. So, Thank you, Paul. Last question here then, and then we'll wrap from Vivek. If someone needs to understand the MS Teams voice well, is there any training courses recommended? Maybe Paul, I don't know if you can.
I wish I could say that there's a really just go and attend this 2-day course and you'll be good to go. The problem is, just like with, I mean, I don't 100% know where all of those on the call background, where your background is. But for example, if you're from a voice background, you might understand ISDN, you might understand SIP. Now you've got to go delve in the Microsoft Cloud world. So you need to understand how Azure AD works, how, all the permissions work and the policies and all that kind of stuff. Inversely, the same is true. Microsoft have done a good job to make it almost a commodity service. So you could probably, with a bit of knowledge of M365, you could probably bolt on, but there is no specific course I'm aware of that does that for you, unfortunately.
I think just if I can just jump in quickly as well, something I could recommend, and obviously it's not going to cover the full voice probably side of it, but on the Teams aspect, probably if you wanted to look at a certification, I'd recommend MS700, which is what I recommend to a lot of our resellers and even end users, and that'll just give you like I guess the Microsoft nuts and bolts of it, and definitely help with that.
Yeah, that's a fair comment.
Yeah, and someone just mentioned maybe you could run a course, Paul. Why
There'll
not?
be lots of whiteboard drawings.
Well, look, thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna have to call it there because it is time. Perhaps if Julie, I'm not sure if we discussed, maybe you can give us a little bit of a teaser on an NFR there. I don't know if you're ready for that.
Yep. No, Lyndon, my little assistant. Just working with Voyager, we came up with a couple of offers for you. I'm sure Chris can help you out as well if you wanted any Teams gear to test yourself. Lyndon, can you bring up? We'll send this out in a follow-up email anyway. And also, we did discuss amongst ourselves, and I'm sure Christian will go into this. If you want us to do this again or have other questions, or sorry, Christian's stealing your thunder. So
go ahead.
Yeah, we've just got an offer on the USB headsets. Those are all Teams certified. That's available to you or your customers. Next slide, Lyndon. I know we're running over time. We've done an offer there on the wireless headsets. Either just the mono, duo, or the full workstation. And we've also got an offer, on the collab bars. It was interesting when we did showcase how bad a lot of people's own meeting rooms were. So we put something together there. But Kristen will send this out for you anyway, just so those offers is available to you. So back 100%. To you, Kristen.
Thank you so much, Julie, and thanks to everyone who joined and asked questions and participated. I think this, no doubt, has been a great deal of help and value to you, and we will be sending out a recording to all the participants and also a quick survey that we'd love for you to fill out for us. With that, I'll leave it there, and thank you to our guests and our participants and our attendees, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Catch you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye all.